Hey everyone, I'm Ganyan and welcome to another episode of Onion Talks, where I talk about some games that I've been playing lately and just tell you my opinion of them. Today I'm talking about Doom Eternal's first DLC, The Ancient Gods. So if you enjoy the video, consider liking and sharing it, and if you really enjoy it, consider subscribing, it really does help out the channel. So this review will be split into three areas, the good, the bad, and the little things, but before we get into that, I want to tell you some general things that you should know about the DLC. It costs about $20 more or less. It's gonna take you about 4 hours to complete depending on your difficulty. It has 3 new levels in it. Each level is about the same size as the main levels in the main game, a little longer than those if you play the game. But you can also get the DLC as a standalone without getting the main game. All the footage that you're gonna see in this video is either from menus in the game or from the first 30-40 minutes of the DLC. So don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil anything in the DLC. So with that being said, let's get into the good. So the DLC starts off at a UAC facility in the middle of the ocean, and one of my biggest positive points on this DLC is the aesthetic of it and how great it looks. And because this map specifically is in the ocean in a rainy weather, it looks even better than the other two maps, and better than most of the maps in the main game. The graphics are good in the whole game, don't get me wrong, but rain and snow in all video games makes levels look way better, so this one specifically is one of my favorite levels in the game. Another big positive that I'm sure many of you are worried about is the soundtrack. Don't worry, it's good. It's not as good as Mick Gordon's soundtrack, but it still is a good Doom soundtrack, and I enjoyed listening to it while playing, and I had fun listening to it. So it's not bad, it's good. Another thing that I wanted to mention in the good part is that the developers didn't abandon the idea of the collectibles, the Slayer gates, the milestones in this DLC. Something that many developers do is that when they come to a DLC, they just forget many of the little things that made the main game special. And I loved looking for the Slayer gates. You're gonna be happy to know that we have those in the DLC as well. There are many collectibles, so you can play the level many times, and there are a lot of new milestones with many rewards in them. Some of them are even better than the main game, so I'm really happy about that. My last and biggest positive for this DLC is that they didn't hold back at all with the difficulty. They made it a lot more difficult than the main game, even more difficult than the mastery levels. The first level that you're gonna be playing in the DLC is harder than the last level that you're gonna be playing in the main game. It makes sense because it's a continuation, but if you're playing it as a standalone, just be ready that you're gonna be just jumping into deep waters with this DLC. But then again, challenging yourself and getting better each time is part of the fun of Doom, so I'm not complaining. I love that the DLC is more difficult than the game. They gave us 2 Marauders at a time, a possessed Marauder, a possessed Baron of Hell, and many hard enemies that you haven't fought in the main game, so I really enjoyed that. And with that being said, now let's get into the bad part of the DLC. Starting off with a little gripe that I have with the cutscenes in the DLC, they seem to have a lower quality than the main game. I don't know if this is just me, but the characters, specifically the humans, look a lot worse than in the main game. They look like PS2 humans. I guess that's because of the current situation of the world, but still I thought it was worth mentioning. My second complaint in the DLC is for the level design, mainly the UAC facility, which I've mentioned before, the first level of the DLC. It feels a lot more linear than the levels in the main game and the other levels in the DLC. It's just basically you going in a straight line most of the time. You never go back to the same area or find a shortcut to go back for. It makes discovery and exploration a lot more linear and less fun, in my opinion. But if you like linear levels and you don't mind, then it's not gonna be a problem for you. Another complaint that I have is the replayability of the DLC isn't that high as the main game, because the main hub of the DLC is on this ship that's owned by Samuel Hayden, but unlike the Doom Fortress, it doesn't have anything that's hidden or stuff that you can unlock in it. It's basically just a big room with a couple of people and a teleporter. And that's a bit of a minus for me, because it doesn't mean that I can just go back and have fun in that area and look around like I did with the Fortress of Doom. But this problem can be solved with something that they had already in Doom 2016, which is the arcade mode. That can solve the problems in the main game as well, because I really hate that we have to watch all the cutscenes and the little events when you replay the level. So the arcade mode could solve that. It basically means that you just go into the level to score points and go as fast as you can possibly go. They had that in 2016, and I hope that they bring it back now. because it would solve a lot of the problems that the main game has and that this DLC has. My main complaint with the DLC is that they didn't give us any new equipment for Doomguy. No new weapons, no new mods for any weapons, you don't even have the Crucible even though you had it by the end of the main game. The only new thing I can think of is the new swimsuit, but that's just a copy of the toxic suit that we had in the main game. It just basically lets you breathe underwater, that's all. They said that they don't want to add any new weapons because that would mess with the balance of the game, and they feel that it's in a pretty good place right now. And I agree with that, but at least, I don't know, a new mod would have been nice to have, something new to play with. Maybe just a new skin for the Crucible even, anything that makes the DLC different than the main game. Not with the level design, but with the equipment that Doomguy has. But all in all, that was all the bad stuff that I had in the DLC. And now let's get into my favorite part, the little things. So the first thing isn't really something that we got with the DLC, but it's something that we got in an update a couple of months ago. It's the new filter mods. They basically give you different filters to play the game with, like classic mode, retro mode, console mode, VHS, black and white, all of that stuff that you see on photo editing things. You can play the whole game using this one filter, so it makes the game a lot more playable, and it makes it look so much better in some different ways. For example, I love playing with the cinematic mode or the classic Doom mode. It makes the game look significantly worse, yes, but that's the point, it makes it more like Doom, the classic Doom, and I really enjoy playing the game through that kind of vision. With a game that already has this much replayability, adding these filter mods adds even more replayability. I always enjoy going back to a level that I already completed, but playing it in a classical Doom kind of style. It makes the whole level feel different and new, and I really enjoy that. Another thing, as a bit of a side note, if you have the game right now, just log in because you will get a new Halloween background that you can see in the beginning of this video. It's not much, but I really like it and it's worth it. If you already have the game, why not get another background? Another thing that I really liked is the platforming sections. They added ones that are not that long, but they're fun to go through and you can complete them pretty fast. So they're all fun to see and just figure out. They also added new enemy placements that reference the classic Doom games. For the eyes, for example, you will see them in the second level and in the third level as well, and I really enjoyed those. But all in all, I didn't find many little things to put in this video as of right now. I'm sure there are, and I'm sure that I will find more when I go back and play the DLC. I can't wait to try and find more little references and Easter eggs, because usually the Doom games are full of these. So to sum it all up and give you a final verdict, I really enjoyed this DLC. I think it's worth it if you wanna play it again. As a bit of a disclaimer, if you're playing it only for the story, it's not that worth it because the story is only a couple of hours long and $20 for 4 hours isn't that good. But if you wanna play it like the normal Doom game, collecting all the collectibles, playing it on different difficulties, going back to it when the invasion mode comes out, all that stuff, it's gonna be really worth it. 3 levels, each one for like an hour and a half, completing it many times, it's gonna give you a lot of stuff to play with and a lot of time to spend here. So if you enjoy the main game, get it. If you don't have the main game, maybe consider getting the main game first, because as I've said, this DLC is really hard, so it might be a little too punishing for you. So that's for the review, but before I end the video, I just wanna say thanks to everyone who subscribed. In the last 2 weeks, we got a lot of new people in the channel. We're almost at 100 subscribers. I didn't think that we're gonna get here so fast, so thank you all. Thank you for giving my channel a shot. So if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and sharing it, and if you really enjoyed it, consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitter, the link is down below. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Have a nice day.